This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone. It is a chilly but beautiful morning here in Djuma Private Game Reserve. And the Wildebeest, as always, are here in quarantine, the most reliable of all animals out here. The sun is slowly starting to come up and we're getting that gorgeous colour palette spread across the sky. Now, after yesterday's action, I'm not sure what's in store today, but it will just be Team Djuma. So between Wendy and Rusty, we're going to try and show you as much of the incredible landscape here as possible. So everyone, get ready. It's that time of day for your live safari through the bush. Welcome aboard. We're currently watching the great migration across quarantine. It's the only migration of mammals that we're going to get here. From one side of quarantine to the other. But I love these wildebeest. I love them. They're very predictable. They've got their little habits, and it's lovely to see the little ones growing up. The little ones that we followed so closely for quite some time. Davi's just giving the lens a little wipe. It's one of those mornings. My name is Lauren. I've already told you who my cameraman is, but that is Davi. Hello. He says hello, everyone. And we are going to bumble south, scratch around that area. For those of you who maybe were not on the sunset safari last night, let me tell you what happened. Tristan got very, very lucky in terms of signal, in Simbambili at Tiani's den site and managed to catch up with Tiani, who's a leopardess that we really don't get to show you, and her two new little ones, which was incredibly cute. And I went to a Maribes sighting. Turned out Tandy was there. Then Klalamba rocked up, and it turns out there was a kill that they were all fighting over. So I may scratch around that area and see if they are still there, if they're not still there, and what the situation is. But of course, this is your live safari, so please do talk to us. It's really important, especially when we're driving. And we're not having much luck. We need your questions to get us through. So how do you do that? You use the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, at FC on the YouTube chat, stands for Final Control. Or you can head over to the WildEarth website. As long as you've registered, you can submit your questions under the live safari page. Oh, this is so lovely. They're now walking along the road. And kids, if you're watching, please do talk to us. You send in your questions a slightly different way so that we're alerted to them. And the email address is kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Just pop us an email, tell us your name, your age, and most importantly, your favorite animal. Maybe it's a wildebeest. Who knows? That's not Davi, by the way, that's the wildebeest. But time is of the essence in the morning. It really is. If we don't get moving because the sun's already up, we used to go out before the sun came up and it was dark, we can miss a lot of activity. So I think we will slowly start to turn our engine on and just see tracks, smells, sounds. Maybe the hyena den will be active, maybe the leopards will be there, who knows? Okay, it's actually not as chilly as I first thought. I think I was being a little bit dramatic, but it's still cold. So let's take a look at the weather across all our locations.
Well, we are looking at the other half of the Djuma migration, which is the zebras that are slowly heading towards Lauren's Wildebeest. They meandering their way down towards quarantine in very slow, very methodical fashion, which is, I suppose, what animals do in the early morning. Anyway, my name is Tristan. On camera, I have got BK this morning. It is a very warm welcome. It's actually, it is warmer today. It's not as cold as it has been. It's been a lot better this morning than yesterday and the day before, which is good. It's nice not to have to feel like your nose is going to fall off when you're driving around the place. But our zebras are busy meandering off, like I say, down into the thickets there. They would have spent most of their time in an open clearing to my right, close to kind of power lines area. And now, as the day is getting on, they're going to slowly meander their way towards quarantine. Then from quarantine, as the sun heats up over the top and down towards the dam, I would imagine, go and drink there, or maybe even have a drink at Treehouse before the day kind of gets too hot. And then from there, they'll just find a nice spot to rest up for the day. Now, our plan for this morning has kind of been toying and umming and ahhing as to what I'm going to do this morning. Initially, it was thought about going towards Tandy and Maribes, but there was lots of vehicles heading that way, so I thought better of that. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to try and see if I can't get onto fresher tracks of that cheetah female. Let's see if maybe she's still around. Cheetah are tough, and especially because we're starting to get back towards full moon. It was quite bright last night, so I wouldn't be surprised she walked quite far. But what I'm kind of hoping is that maybe, just maybe, she made a kill somewhere and is just lying up on an open clearing, and we'll be able to find her. So that's going to be kind of the start of the day, and if we don't find any fresh tracks from there, well, then we'll just take it as it comes and go and see what's around. I'm sure there'll be something for us. You know, yesterday was such a bumper day afternoon that it's going to be very difficult to repeat all of that, and well, we can't repeat all of that, unfortunately. Tiani's moved those cubs to a place where we no longer get signal, unfortunately. So the den was only like that for 2 days, and then it got kind of moved off, which is very, very sad, because those little cubs are super, super cute and so relaxed as well. Amazing to see how chilled they were. All right, so let's leave these zebras. They've gone far off. We'll try and see if we can find other things this morning. So the last tracks I had of that cheetah were kind of coming south from west of me here. I'm expecting that maybe she either cut through this way towards quarantine, or she went sort of sandy patch to Impala Plains, and then from Impala Plains she might have either gone into Arethusa towards the Arethusa airstrip side, or maybe even onto Hoffman's, but we'll just double check and have a look just to see. You know, it's not often we get cheetahs, and so I don't really have any clue what her route would be, but we'll try and see if we can find her. I mean, it'll be nice if we do. It's always a very, very big treat for us here, and it's been a long time since I've tracked a cheetah. It's kind of nice to be on different tracks than leopards sometimes. I love tracking leopards, it's so much fun, but it's sometimes nice just to see those little different feet. It's, you know, a track, like I say, that I haven't seen at Djuma for probably 2 years now, or actively tracked them. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Got to check all the termite mounds, any fallen over trees. Those will all be good indicators for a cheetah. All right, let's bumble slowly southwards and let's see what we can come up with. So just want to check carefully as I go. There's lots of hyena tracks, obviously the zebra tracks coming up the road, so they came from this side and bent around. So no sign of that cheetah here. I lost the track last night. Unfortunately, it got a bit dark, and so it was very difficult to see where she cut off and which direction she cut off, but I'm wondering if maybe she didn't turn and head back towards like Sydney's dam area, Baobab Dam, that area, and then maybe back into the Manyalet. It could also be. Unfortunately, our signal there is very sketchy, so we're gonna have to, I don't know, we'll have to just do the area, the peripheries, just to see if she did go into that section. To check here also, because I saw tracks for a male leopard, but they didn't look fresh. It looked like maybe from yesterday, but no one actually called them in that I know of. So just keeping a close eye out here in case they came this way, but maybe it's Tavangumi and he bent back up north as well. We'll head up back that way. We're not going to close this off just yet. We'll kind of head all the way south first and then bend back up to Impala Plains and those areas. There's lots of nice big open areas on my western side here that I would like to check early this morning in case she's lying up somewhere there. It'd be nice if she is. Also nice to see the sun. Means it will get warmer soon. I wonder if we're going to get heavy winds like we had yesterday. That wind yesterday was very weird, a very cold wind. So all the wind coming off the mountains of snow. All right, onward and forwards. Hopefully we'll have some luck this morning.
I got one live there, not the second live. I am very frozen, everyone. My lips and my fingers when I go to do my very best to drive and talk. That's what we do very well here. No, I'm not sure if anyone's checked that area, Namulwanini, properly. For some reason, nobody came to the sighting yesterday. It was one of the vehicles that appeared. I think everyone was very busy with the Talamatis up in Buffelshoek. And Susan, I don't know if you're watching, but I started answering a question of yours yesterday, and it got all very exciting when we found an owl. So I just want to finish wrapping up that question because I felt bad that I didn't finish it. It just went from action to action yesterday. But with the Talamatis as it stands, 5 adult lionesses, 9 sub-adults, 6 are female, 3 are male. However, there's new cubs, and we have not seen them. They're up in Buffelshoek. We've heard about them. I've not even seen photos. I'm not even entirely 100% sure who the mothers are. We did see some lionesses that looked like they could be sort of getting ready to lactate, but we don't know that yet. We don't see the Talamatis every day, and if they're not on Djuma, we can't spend time with them right now. If they're up in Buffelshoek, I'm afraid we just have to let them be. But when they are here, we will spend time with them. And if these lionesses that have given birth to the cubs, and it's not dark means offspring, then what's going to happen here? Leaves an interesting scenario because they're not going to want to bring the cubs, I mean, I think they're very young from what I can gather, to the rest of the pride if dark means there, because that can lead to possible infanticide. So is the pride going to sort of start to split for a little bit? That's definitely possible. It really all depends on the situation with the males right now, and we don't know that yet. We can only speculate. Darkmane is still with the Talamatis. The Avoca Coalition are still the dominant coalition as it stands. But obviously lots of males, like the S8 males, have been coming in from the Kruger. So if they've been mating, can you hear hyenas? Davi said he can hear hyenas. We have got permission to pop in. This is me lurking, everyone. This is how I... Djuma Clan! Holly has given me permission to pop in, everyone, which is so, so lovely of him. I think he just knows I miss them so terribly. And they're not really on the top of everybody's list, hyenas. Don't you run away. Don't you run away. You've got blood on your face. I see you. That was an adult, everyone. Oh, no. It's June. June, you're just everywhere these days, my lady. She just chased someone off. Another adult. I don't really know what to say. Okay. This is a very confusing moment. I cannot believe we just captured that live. Okay, June's okay, I can see her.
Yeah. Maribes is still here on the fire break.
Davi, can you believe that just happened? Okay, June's okay, which is a good thing, because warthogs, I kid you not, they have absolute weapons on the lower jaw. Those tusks on the lower jaw. June is clearly as baffled as I am right now. She's also huge. Did you eat an elephant, baby girl? But where are the cubs? How can 3 warthogs just come out of the hyena den? She's gonna check, look. I don't know, June. I also don't have the answers. There's Davi in his lovely pink cloth. It's so very pink, Dove. Anna Marie, your heart is racing, mine too. I really did not expect 3 huge warthogs to just come out of this mound, and clearly neither did June. But where's Novella, her daughter, and Intima's son? Do you know, we're going to try and follow her. I just want to see which direction she goes in. It appears the cubs are not here. They can't be here if there was warthogs inside. Oh, sorry everyone, too much excitement. I cannot believe we just caught all of that. I don't know where the cubs are then. Warthogs would not come to that den if there was hyena cubs inside, so they're obviously not inside. And June also doesn't know where they are. She's looking for them. Makes me a little bit sad sometimes when I see a mother looking for offspring. Do you know, there is a termite mound just about 50 meters to the east, in the direction that she's heading, and I wonder if it's a possibility they've jumped to that one. Shall we try, Dove? Can't believe that. June she could have got injured there. I mean, she didn't. She's absolutely fine. But warthogs are really a force to be reckoned with. Now that's the termite round. Just a little bit closer to get remains. So if the cubs are there, that would benefit the lurkers. Where's Novella? Sorry, Jared, one more time. This is the other mound. I really don't know if it's a usable mound. Peter, I mean, that's why they were in there, yes, but they would only go in if there was absolutely no hyena cubs in there. They're really not going to go near hyena cubs. So when the warthogs came in, they obviously thought it was empty. That's what warthogs do. They just find sort of empty termite mounds big enough for all of them. So I'm just a bit confused what could have possibly have happened this morning. This is naturally little Gowrie, so I'm not going to go bashing in. I just thought maybe June might have come to this termite mound. I thought we were going to get the most loveliest little cub sighting today. I didn't expect 3 warthogs to come running out. Maybe Intima's moved the cubs and June just hasn't located the den yet. She's looking though. June's looking for Novella. She's had food, she's full, she's covered in blood. And she's looking for her daughter. I'm just going to reverse dive. Got to be in the right place at the right time these days. Poor June. There's been cases of humans walking far too close to termite mounds and walking far too close to the dentrance, if you like, and a warthog running out and using those lower tusks, snapping humans' legs. So it's really, really a dangerous one, but June is absolutely fine. Okay, I'm going to sit here a little bit longer, possibly listen, see if I can figure out what on earth is going on.
Hi, I'm Dee from the south coast of England. Today I was told I have won the most amazing prize to go to Maritaba. Oh, I can't believe it. I became hooked on WildEarth last year when I was trying to escape COVID, and animals are my thing. I just love them and I love what WildEarth does. So that's why I wanted to become an explorer. Just so looking forward to going out to Maritaba. Want to do a walking safari. Thank you so much, WildEarth.
Sign up to be an explorer today, and it could be you jetting off on an all-expenses-paid-for safari experience. WildEarth Explorers. It's in your nature.
Hi, I'm Nikki, your guide here at andBeyond in Ngala. So my favorite animal in the African bush definitely has to be the zebra, because like people, with our fingerprints, every single zebra has a different stripe pattern. And, of course, a group of zebras together is called the dazzle. How unique is that? Come and join me or one of my colleagues here in Ngala for a sunrise and sunset safari on WildEarth.
This is a battle of 2 great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Hi everyone, my name's Daniel Fisher and I'm going to be your guide this afternoon. I'm looking really forward to taking you through and showing you all the beautiful places here at andBeyond in Ngala. If you have any questions, please register on our website. Once registered, go to the live page feed and post your questions underneath the live feed. Join me on my next safari through andBeyond in Ngala on WildEarth. Send me live questions through the WildEarth website and I'll answer them live from the African bush.
Well, still still bumbling along. Sounds like a very interesting dynamic with Lauren there. And before everyone gets too stressed about it, I have seen twice hyenas and warthogs coexisting in the same mound, so actually using the same termite mound. But the problem is normally is that they use separate entrances, so one on one side, the others on the other side. So hopefully they haven't evacuated those little ones and they're kind of milling about on their own. Maybe they're also inside there somewhere, just taking it easy. Anyway, we haven't had much luck yet. Did find tracks from Mulawati from what looks like yesterday afternoon, so he could be 700 million miles away. They were heading north towards kind of quarantine area. So I haven't followed those, but other than that, no sign of this cheetah coming anywhere south and west, or south and east. So I've basically cut the property all the way down, hugging the sort of western side. So what I'm doing now is I'm just coming in slightly, just because this fire break area can often be a good place for a cheetah to walk. What you're looking for is kind of trying to connect open clearings. Cheetah will often try and walk where they can find a clearing and they can see a clearing, and then they just use whatever they can to get towards the clearing. And given that this is a fire break on both sides, it's quite open here, so she can walk here a lot more comfortably than walking, in the thickets. So we'll just check here. If there's nothing here, then I'm going to bend back around and then go straight north, parallel with Triple M, see if I can't pick up tracks there. Failing all of that, then I'll head back to the road that I had tracks yesterday, just to get a better idea of which way they went. Once I know which way they've gone, that will help me to be able to understand where we're looking. I probably should have started there, but I was just going off a gut feel that maybe, just maybe, she'd come down this way. I might be completely wrong, of course, but hoping that's the case. There was lots and lots of lion audio from the north last night. Only 2 males calling, and then one is in Buffelshoek at the moment. But yeah, with them making so much noise, that might have also just pushed the cheetah southwards away from that audio. Cheetah often will move when they hear lions roaring and it's coming, then they just push a little bit away from that just to try and get out of the way of the lions. Just remember that lions are a particular threat to cheetah. They don't like lions very much, and so they typically try and avoid them where they can, and if lions are shouting about, it makes it much easier to avoid them. I was kind of hoping she'd be on one of these mounds, just sitting, watching over this little section here. It's like, feels like a little cheetah runway where they can chase stuff around. Also, the area good for, Moya and Shidulu and Kara, so it's not like we don't have other options while we this side. Right, so it seems like we have an issue with our radios, which is not ideal. So Jarrett, if you were speaking, all I got was it sounding like a propeller running. BK, did you also get that? Oh, wonderful. It's going to be very average if our radios don't work. Certainly it's going to make life a little bit difficult. There we go, all sorted. Jerome, it's just one female, so it's not plural. But honestly, I don't know. I didn't see it yesterday. Lauren did, and I had briefly looked at the photo. I haven't looked properly. So yeah, I'm not sure. Cheetah here are few and far between, and we typically don't know them very well unless they spend a bit of time in the area. When you see them just once and then you don't see them again for a year and a half, it becomes quite tricky to remember who's who. So I'm not sure. I suspect that we probably have had her through here before. given that there's been the odd cheetah rolling around, and kind of we've been seeing, cheetah here and there, and there's been lots of young ones around, so it wouldn't surprise me if we have seen her before. James Richard will probably be able to tell if we have had her on the drives, or if he's seen photographs of her anywhere before. I know Lauren did post it yesterday, so I'm not sure. There's a female that's had Tswalu on Mala for a while. They're getting almost to the time where they're going to separate. There was a female with 3 that we had here in Buffels Hook, also getting big, and almost at the time they were going to leave their mom. There was another young female that I saw up in the north of Buffels Hook around Easter, so that could very well be her that Lauren saw yesterday. There's also kind of small, petite female, but Lauren said she was an adult, so it was like she wasn't tiny. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't know enough about our cheetah. Maybe we can match it to one of the cheetah from Manyaleti. They see a lot of cheetah their side. But there certainly isn't any indication of her still being here. She's moved off. Alright, Treehouse Dam, what have you got for us this morning? Not very much. Still quite cold, so I didn't expect there to be huge amounts of activity. This time of the day, I don't know, it's weird. Cats are not huge fans of just drinking at this time of the day. It's cold near the water, so they like to be more up on the cress. Particularly lions. Lions like to lie in little open clearings on crests where it's warm and they can get the sun on them. Whereas, leopard a little bit more, a little different. They can kind of do will be all over the place. See, there's a little kingfisher. BK, you see on that fallen tree there? There's a little kingfisher. I don't know which kingfisher it is at this stage. I need to get my binos out and also turn this radio down. Can you see it there, Beaks? On the end of the branch, little brown hooded. Just look for the little white tummy on the far right of the tree. It's on the fallen part where the roots would be. You should be able to see it there somewhere. You got it. A little brown hooded kingfisher. It's all fluffed up and is trying to kind of keep warm. A lot of the birds will be this way this morning because of how cold it is. They'll try and get those feathers all puffy and just try and trap a little bit of air and try and stay nice and warm. And I can sympathize with them. It's horrible when you're feeling cold near the water like this, I would imagine. So now this little kingfisher is actually not a fish eater, so it's not a bird that's going to be targeting fish. In all likelihood it's here for other reasons. So it could be to come and wash itself, to get some water on and just preen. It could be that there's insects that are hanging around this area that they can hunt. So it's not actually a water kind of kingfish. You don't see them all the time around water. They typically are pretty kind of independent of water. A lot of the time on like drainage lines or little thickets, you find them in there. Nice. It's nice sometimes just to sit at these dams and listen. In the mornings, I think we're sometimes so quick to rush around and try and find something that we forget that listening can often be your biggest tool as things move around. So alarm calls are given, and that allows us to then pick up signs of animals in the area. It's very quiet though at Treehouse Dam, I'll say that. So quite cold here, I must be honest. Alright, let's carry on, bees. Let's go try and... Ruby kingfishers are very cool. I like kingfishers. We've got a few kind of species here. We're actually quite fortunate, particularly in the summer. We've got quite a number of kingfishers that we see. So we've got obviously the brown-hooded, striped, giant, pied, malachite, pygmy, woodland, half-collared. quite a number of different kingfishers that come to this part of the world. Half-collards are tricky because we don't have quite the right habitats for them. I've seen them in the Sabi sands, but they prefer like little areas that are quite dense with secluded water. So on the Sabi River you see them, Sand River, some of those drainage lines that pool up. So like the Mulawati, if it had a pool in it, then sometimes you can find little half-collards in those kind of areas. Beautiful little bird, that. So yeah, we're fortunate. Unfortunately, a lot of them are migratory, so it's only half the year that we see them. But in the case of the woodland kingfisher, half a year is just the right amount. The amount of noise that they make, I think if we had them all year round, we would probably not enjoy them nearly as much, and certainly you would have the earworm that is the woodland kingfisher call. Alright, let's turn back up towards where I had those last tracks and we'll just see if we can pick up anything. For now, like I say, no sign of anything coming this side. So we know that she hasn't, unless I missed a track somewhere, which is possible, she hasn't come sort of east, so she must still be that side, or she turned and went up into the Magaleti. It's very possible. I really do kind of miss the days that just when I drive this road, it's always quite nostalgic. I miss the days of when we used to track Karula around here. When she disappeared, this was kind of a hanging out point. She used to kind of go to Twin Dams, Treehouse with Hosanna and Shongile. So you used to often find them walking along this road, or tracks of them walking along this road. Used to see Shongile a lot. There's a termite mound just inside here. She used to like sitting on there. This is when I drive down here, I think of those three in that time period. It feels like forever ago. It doesn't feel like it was, I suppose it is 4 years, almost 5 years now since then. It's 4.5 years actually. 5 is a bit of a stretch. But it's a long time ago, getting older and wiser, I suppose. Let's see though, maybe we'll get a new Karula kind of moving around. Kalamba, I don't think will ever be the same as Karula. She's a very different kind of leopard. I don't think we'll ever actually see a leopard quite like Karula from a mothering point of view. I certainly have never heard of one that has been as successful as her. It's a pity in some respects that her early years weren't as well documented as her mid to late years. So like when she was a cub and stuff, there is documentation, but it was a different time. We didn't have the same technology as we've got these days, and so it's completely sort of changed the way that we're able to do things. And WildEarth as an operation itself as well was able to kind of get more feeds and follow them around a lot more with signal and things like that. So we learned a lot more as she got older, but in some ways it's a shame that you can't have that foresight to know that she's going to be that way, because can you imagine if you'd built up that whole library from day one all the way to when she passed away, and all those cubs and all the trials and tribulations she went through? Would have been an amazing story. I know there was a documentary done on her. I think it could have added a lot more depth to it, but you can only do what you can do with the footage that you have. So that was that. Alright, nothing coming from here, no sign of Moya. She must still be south of the boundary. Let's come back around. It's weird that cat coming like in and out these days. She kind of comes in for the morning and then out she goes again. I haven't seen her actually stationary on Djuma yet. She's always moving around and busy with things. I suppose it's an older cat. She's got things to do. Hopefully Kalamba will also have a legacy of her own. She certainly is feisty. I was laughing at Lauren yesterday. She was saying she can't believe how feisty Kalamba is, and I was like, well, she's always been that way from day one. She's learned from her mom to be, you know, if you want something, you got to sometimes be a little more aggressive. But at the same time, she's got her dad's build. You know, she's big and strong, so she can bully others, even young boys like Maribes. But that time period will come to an end shortly. Maribes will sort her out at some point. And it's exactly like Osana. Osana was bullied by Tandy for a bit, and eventually he snapped, and you know, that was that. And she was kind of pushed off her meals for a while. So tables will turn, but for now she's certainly not shy of intimidating everyone around her, which is quite cool to see.
I'm not coming until 2 minutes, my love. I won't be able to join Maribes without data.
You just said asking for a link, bro.
Okay, well, I've got no comms. We've got comms now. We're about to approach a leopard sighting, but we have to wait a little bit. So we are just sitting here admiring the views, the vegetation, the golden hour of the morning. Love just sitting listening to the sounds of the birds, so that's exactly what we're gonna do.
Still no luck for us. We're slowly just bumbling along for two reasons. One's cold, and the second is that we're trying to check very, very, very carefully. No signs of anything crossing south from this side. So I want to just now do all the roads that run parallel to Triple M, because Triple M by now would have been driven flat. So who knows if there's even any signs there. That will be left. A little emerald spotted wood dove flying off. I wonder if it'll stay there, because you can actually see its little emerald spots quite nicely in the sun. They're beautiful little birds. They have these little green spots on their wings. Wood dove, why did you fly away? It's gone, I think. But there's lots of little blue waxbills in the tree, though. You can have a look at those little guys. Instead, there's a black-headed oriole. Is that the yellow one that you're on? Beaks?
What is it?
No, don't stress. All these little birds here, though, in the green, you can use those. There's also a little woodpecker here somewhere. Don't know if you guys can hear it. Nice little bird party, this. So there's waxbills, there's, like I say, wood dove, so an oriole, there's a drongo, a little woodpecker somewhere. Where's that bird over there? Bouncing around in there, a little yellow bird. Looks like a little somber green bull. It's also bouncing. You can just see it in the thickets there, sitting underneath this big tree. behind that fork-tailed drongo in the tree behind, there's like a little yellowy green bird flying around in there. Oriole. Like when you find little bird parties like this, sometimes you can find pretty interesting stuff in amongst them. Like things like waxbills are very, very common birds, but sometimes in amongst them will be like little firefinches, you get little long-billed crombecs sometimes hanging out with them. It's cool. Shame, I think they're also quite cold. I want to see what they're feeding on. They're on this quarry bush. Are they drinking? They are. They're drinking the moisture from the leaf. Look. Isn't that amazing? So they're running their beak along the leaves. You can see the leaves have a lot of moisture on them and are wet. So they're actually getting their moisture from the leaf of the tree rather than having to go find a place to drink. That would be a lot safer for birds like this. If they see anything coming, they can just tuck into that little thicket. But that's very, very cool. I haven't seen that behavior in a long time. They just run their beak over every single leaf. And that little blue wash is so pretty on these guys. They look so drab from behind, but that beautiful blue is very, very, very pretty. Fascinating, isn't it? So cats will do this, and so will steenbok too, where they'll find water on leaf structures, and then they drink it, particularly in arid areas because of the extreme temperature changes. So in desert areas, there's often a bit of dew that forms on the ground and leaves and grasses, and so when steenbok are living in places like that, and things like leopard, that's often how they find water, is by just finding leaves, and then they basically drink off of it. Very cool. I'm trying to see where this woodpecker is. I can hear it, but I can't see it. It's a very, 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 very light tap. So normally with woodpeckers, you can actually identify them roughly from their tap. I mean, it's not science, but the beardeds being so much bigger, when they hit the wood, they make a very strong thudding sound and hard sort of drum roll, whereas this is a very soft pecking. This almost sounds like probably the smallest of our woodpeckers, which would be the cardinal woodpecker. That's busy feeding there. Golden-tailed also do feed in the trees like this, but the golden-tailed is also quite a lot bigger than the cardinal. And the bennets typically feeds on the ground. You don't get them feeding that much in trees and actually pecking. Like this woodpecker is doing. I can't see it. I've been looking and scanning for it. Nope, no sign. Alright, well, we're going to leave our little drinking waxbills. Let's go see what else we can find. In the meantime, let's send you across to Lauren.
Tandy's here. Maribes is also here. Now, Tandy's chewing on what I can only imagine she doesn't want to chew on. This is what was left behind yesterday. The sort of stomach contents. The other kid is gone. The impala's gone. No tlalamba so far. So I imagine hyenas came. That's the only thing. It wouldn't surprise me if it was June. We saw Maribes. He's definitely here. It's just a really tricky termite mound to navigate around. can hear her crunching, and it's a different kind of bone crunching than bone crunching, sorry. You can see it's really not exactly what Tandy's wanting. Normally the predators leave behind the stomach. Poor Tandy girl. Now, I saw some theories that people possibly thought that this was Tlalamba's kill. I really disagree, being in... She's opening in it. This might be unpleasant for some people. From being actually in the situation, I don't think so. Tandy took down an impala ram when I was on my stint with Steve, which really wasn't too long ago, a few months ago max, maybe 3 months ago. She doesn't tend to hoist larger kills as much, that's what I'm noticing. She still absolutely can take down an animal of that size, and she tends to normally leave it on the ground. And this happened on Chitwa, and... No, not Chitwa, sorry, Torchwood. And we weren't able to get signal, but we went there, and it was also an impala ram that was on the ground, and both her and Maribes were feeding on it. Oh, this is not so pleasant, is it? At least it's not smelly. So I do think it was Tandy's kill, 100%, because the leopardess was called in from Chitwa, heading north. And it was called in as possibly Shadulu, but it was a possible, they didn't know, and it was naturally. There's another leopard dove, I think this is Maribes. I'm not sure if you can get a view, but he's moving now. I wonder if he'll come and investigate what delightful dish Mom is drinking. And he's coming, he's coming. Hello, you. You had quite the night, didn't you, boy? Davi, do you want me to try and reposition? Are you happy? My shadow is on Tandy. He's probably extremely cautious. Okay, they are moving. That's because really that's not what they want to eat. I don't think they'll stay here. I actually think they will head into Chitwa. We're currently on the Torchwood side of the Mulmanini.
Comment from Alex. He said they're so playful, he loves it. From Alex.
Alex, you're saying they're so playful and loving. They really are. Well, Maribes more so, for sure. He just loves Mom. Mom is everything right now. That will change, I can assure you. But Mom is everything, and I just love the way that they split, reunite, split, reunite. And he's always swooshing her with his tail, and it looks like it could be quite painful. And yet, it's actually affection. Look at this. We will need to follow. I've gone into the drainage here.
Super.
You got them? She constantly gives them that snarl. I wonder where Miss Kalamba got to. She could be in Buffelshoek by now, that cat.
Hello, my name is Marnie Kell from the Greater Toronto Area of Ontario, Canada. I am most excited to meet some of the guides that I feel I already know. And I'm going to very much enjoy riding along with them to see what they see most days while they're broadcasting these safaris to us, while also staying at the beautiful Simbambili Lodge. WildEarth has brought so much to my life, and I am thrilled and grateful to have this opportunity. Thank you.
Sign up to be an explorer today, and it could be you jetting off on an all-expenses-paid-for safari experience. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
There's a grounding earthiness to this place that we feel in our ancestors. It's a place where, believe it or not, we evolved as a human species, and anyone who's come to Africa will understand that. The connectivity that the continent has to the person and to people's souls is next level. I'm thoroughly looking forward to taking you on your next adventure when we explore all the small and big things.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is a call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops. Oof.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Hello, I'm Marna, your WildEarth Safari Guide from andBeyond Ngala. What I really like about connecting with WildEarth viewers is that we get to speak to viewers instantly, and I get to show you this beautiful property. If you want to ask me a question, register on the WildEarth website. Simply head over to the live safari page and you can submit your questions there. Join me or one of the other guides twice a day on WildEarth.
Well, we're still with our elephants, or in fact we just basically found these elephants, not still with them. We're bumbling along and picked them up. Seems like a really nice sized herd. At the moment though it's a bit tricky, we're kind of facing into the light, which is making life not easy. But as the herd crosses the road, then we'll be able to bend around them a little bit and be able to spend a bit of time. I'm not going to follow them too much through this because this is very thick, very dense, very noisy to off-road in, and I don't really want to disturb them through here. They're having a very peaceful morning browse and graze, and so we don't really want to kind of push them to move too much or unsettle them. I think the thing with elephants is always to try and, with any animal actually, try and show as much respect as possible and allow them to go about their morning the way they would normally do so. And if we're going to be crashing through these kind of thickets, we're going to only disturb their morning. Unfortunately, these kind of areas are filled with black monkey orange aardvark burrows, so it's a very noisy block to off-road in, and quite frankly a very nasty one at the same time. Okay, I'm going to move a little bit for you. Let's just see if I can get you a slightly better angle here, away from all this vegetation. one big cow on my left here that I'm just going to have to try and keep in mind. She's very chilled, but if we can get BK just in somewhere here, then we should be... How's that, BK? Perfect, wonderful. Perfect is what we want. They're very chilled though, this group. I haven't even batted an eyelid since we've arrived here. Didn't even get one of them turning in our direction. They were just like, yeah, a vehicle. It must be one of the herds that spends a lot of time in the Sabi sands. You'll find the elephants at this time of the year will start spending a lot of time in blocks like this. There's very, very, very kind of important food source for them at this time of the year in the form of these bush willows. So most of the trees you're seeing in these frames, there's a little baby wants to suckle. Most of the trees you're seeing in these kind of pictures are bush willows, and they have a very kind of tasty root for the elephants. So you find in late winter, they often are in the bush willow thickets, and they're breaking and trying to push the trees to expose root systems. The problem with that is that bush willows, like Terminalia, both of them, coppice very well, and so when they get pushed, what they do is they sprout another stem, and it eventually can actually lead to these areas being quite choked up. If you look at some of these trees, what you'll notice is that they're multi-stemmed. So it's not just one tree coming up. It's a tree that will have, 6, 7, 8 little stems coming from the same base point. And that's because of elephant damage. The more they push them, the more they break them, the more they, disrupt them, the more they coppice, which is quite interesting. And so you get a bit of a choking off effect by bush willow and Terminalia. And that's why fires, particularly, are good in these kind of areas. They're, depending on the fire, there's fire and then there's other fires. But some of these fires will just help to keep that coppice down, and it's part of the natural system. I'm not saying that you must burn this every year. That's not good fire management practice. But every now and then a rotational fire here and there is just good to try and get the fuel load down, and also to stop this invasion of bush willow and Terminalia that we can get if left. It's crazy to think. I was speaking to one of the guys in the western sector recently, and they were saying then they did the sort of study, well, not the study, but the biomass calculations. They reckon that they currently, after this last 2 good years of rain and then the drought with all the trees that were pushed over, are almost 5 times over an acceptable fuel load, which means that if fire breaks out, it's going to be running hot and fast and going to be difficult to control. So, these areas after good rains have got a lot of grass, but what's more dangerous is the amount of fallen over trees, and a lot of these are hardwoods, so when they catch a light, they burn for days. They don't just go out and that's it. You'll find that they'll keep burning for days on end. And actually 2-3 afternoons ago, there was a fire that flared up just off of Chitwa. That wasn't a planned fire at all. It was from a planned fire. One of the stumps, obviously, just with the wind, kind of flared back up, and an ember was carried and started a little fire there. So it's something you got to be a bit careful of when you get these high fuel loads, is that things can get out of hand pretty quickly, which is never a good thing. Because you're really just using her tail to keep all the insects away. She's so chilled this day. She hasn't even looked at us. And we're not actually that far from her. Christina, so it's an indicator, it's a gland, it's not sweat. It's a fluid that comes out as an indication to others that this animal is in a heightened level of emotion. Whether that be anger or happiness or sadness, that temporal gland is indicating to those around it that it's in a state of emotion. So that's why they have it. Sometimes you'll see they have it when they're under stress. Sometimes it will be when they are trying to get to water and they're active and they sort of getting excited that water's close by. You sometimes see it then. When they give birth, that temporal gland runs quite heavily. So yeah, it's just a motion indicator basically in them. The animals have lots of subtle cues, unlike us that, we typically rely heavily on our language more than our bodies to express ourselves. I mean, we do obviously use quite a lot of body language in day-to-day life, but with these guys, they have a lot more than that. They have body language, they have communication from a verbal or oral point of view, and then they're very, very much tactile and visual creatures too. So like in an elephant, for example, if they want to have a sort of gesture, ears being out, tail being erect, can indicate unhappiness, that streaming of that temporal gland. So it's just all communication within the herd and individuals, and being able to tell what state they're all in, and what they need to do in order to kind of either calm that situation down or move away if it's dangerous or whatever it may be that they're indicating from that. Sometimes I find when they're having like a very content morning, and you see it sometimes coming down, when they're like just feeding and they tend to be in a happy place, then sometimes it just is a very slow leak. Around when it's dry season and they're running towards water, I find it also starts to come out. It's almost like a joyfulness in them that starts to show. Such fascinating creatures, elephants. I still think I know there's a lot of people that are doing some amazing work, so like Cynthia Moss up in East Africa and various others, Elephants Alive down here, but there's still, I think, so much that we don't quite understand with ellies. I think they're such complex creatures, much like humans, that there's still so much to learn about them, and they're so subtle in their ability to communicate that I think it will take a while still till we fully understand them, if we ever do. All right, while we sit with our ellies, let's send you across to Lauren with the leopards.
I completely agree, Tristy. But I think that's the case for all organisms. Even the more simpler organisms, I think there's a lot to learn. But someone's decided to come and join us at the car. Watching every bird, falling asleep, enjoying the sun. I told you all a lie earlier. The carcass is here and Tandy's on it. The carcass has been dragged into the deep thicket of the Mulwanini. We don't have any visual, but it's not gone. No hyenas took it. Tandy's got it. And there's no signs of Tlalamba. Oh, Maribes doesn't like that word. Where's Tlalamba? It was such an incredible sighting yesterday, and it was so interesting to witness the interactions between all of these related individuals. And Maribes is getting big, but really, he's still very small. So the kill never got hoisted, I don't think. I mean, a lot could have happened last night, but I don't think it ever got hoisted again after Tlalamba's epic fail. He keeps looking up. I don't know what he's looking at. It's obviously a bird. Something's catching his attention. He's loving the sunlight. Imagine, I'm actually still shivering. You can probably hear it in my voice. I'm really cold this morning. And, they've survived the night outdoors. So they really relish that morning sun. Everyone's seen those ads. I know Davi's given us quite some incredible visuals. He's positioned himself very close to the car. Maribes is very habituated, and we were slightly I remember we used to discuss this when he was just a young cub on Torchwood, when James Hendry was here, and we were unsure of what he was going to grow up to be like, because Torchwood can be quite quiet in terms of vehicle traffic. It's a great property, it's big, it's vast, it's dense. And if we aren't spending a lot of time with him when he's a cub, is he going to grow up to be quite skittish? But of course, lo and behold, we really don't have to worry about that. And there's a lot more vehicle traffic on Chitwa. So it's a good thing that he's habituated, I feel. Out here in this environment, I think we need these animals to be habituated, or they're going to sort of flee every time a vehicle comes near, and that's not fair on them. Imagine if a leopard ran and left behind its kill every time a vehicle drove past. That's not fair. But luckily the guys on Torchwood worked hard, and then they dipped their toes into Djuma, their paws, and then of course now they're traversing Chitwa a lot. But I wonder if Tlalamba just gave up last night and just left. Fascinating. I'm really not sure. Okay, we're going to sit here, hopefully get views of Tandy soon, and we're going to send you guys over to Dan.
Good morning, everybody, and a very cold welcome to andBeyond and Ngala this morning. Kind of just popped up towards a watering hole to see what's happening this morning. I must apologize for the misty kind of look. It seems like there's a bit of mist on the inside of our lens. That's kind of just showing you how cold it is this morning. But as we kind of popped up here, there's a lovely group of Wildebeest and a small little dazzle of zebra there, having a drink. I mean, there's a good chance that these wildebeest and zebra have come from quite a way to get some water this morning. This is some of the only water in the eastern part of the reserve, so they can you'll often find when in really harsh winters that groups of zebra, impalas, wildebeest kind of come from many, many kilometers deep into the Kruger National Park. But good morning, everybody. I'm Daniel Fisher, and on camera this morning we've got Owen Dell. So, a bit of a late start for us this morning, and it is pretty chilly as well. So I thought easy, just pop up to the watering hole, see if anything's come around. Lovely herd of zebra, and the wildebeest have just been spooked off by something. It is quite a nerve-wracking place to be around a watering hole. You are quite vulnerable and exposed. I mean, particularly for these kind of animals, if they get chased from behind, they're going to have to run into the water, and then they face another whole different kettle of fish in terms of dodging crocodiles and even some hippos maybe in a watering hole. The hippo's not going to feed on the zebra or the wildebeest, but if it feels threatened or wants to defend its territory, a hippo can be pretty aggressive. You see how those zebras kind of pick their heads up, go for a little drink, pop up ever alert, ever aware. You see how they're standing as well. See the one in the middle looking forward, and the two on either sides kind of facing outwards. And when these two are drinking, the third one puts its head up. Let's see which one's going to put its head up first here. Must be very thirsty. I reckon they might have had a good look around and said, okay, for the next minute or so, nothing's coming. Let me have a drink, and then let me pop my head up and see if anything's come a bit closer. Sitting around a watering hole this time of the morning is really beautiful as well. I mean, you get these general game coming down to drink. You get all sorts of birds coming down to have their early morning drink, and lots of birds calling. I'm going to keep spending a bit more time here at the watering hole, see what else comes down in the next few minutes, or else I might pop on and try and see if we can find some spots this morning.
We're just watching a young male leopard Maribes bask in the morning sun. It's been a cold night, so he's just thoroughly enjoying the sunlight, as are we. But it's actually really peaceful just sitting here watching him, so I think he's listening to the birds, and that's exactly what we're going to do too. Sit with them and listen to all the sounds of the morning in the bush. And down he goes. Now it's time for a snooze. The sunlight on his body. He's lying on the soft sand. He's thoroughly enjoying this morning, as am I.
We're still with our elephants. They are just having the most relaxed, chilled morning, feeding along in this area. They aren't in a rush to go anywhere. I thought maybe, just maybe, they might start making their way up towards, well, down towards Treehouse Dam. Kind of not in line with it, but we're not that far away from Treehouse. If they had to walk in a straight line and they had to just kind of, put the foot down a little bit. But they are just so happy feeding here. I think they're enjoying the sunshine as well. When it's these cooler days, I think if you're an elephant, sitting in the morning sun and having a nice little feed is the perfect way to start one's day. So everybody is just taking it super easy. Been nice also from a point of view that they're coming out towards us again. So it looked like they were going to bend into the block and it was going to be difficult to follow them around, but they're actually coming back towards the road, which is perfect. It's exactly what I was hoping for. There's a horrible little wind that's crept up all of a sudden. I think it's going to be not like a strong wind, but a very cold wind. I think today is not going to be very pleasant at all. So, Louisa, it's a conversation or question that's been asked quite a few times. Is elephants adopting calves? So it really depends on the calf and the size of the animal. So in elephants, if the mother is, let's say, suckling her own calves, she doesn't have the energy or the capacity to be able to suckle another individual. She's got to worry about her offspring first, and that means that often you'll find that those offspring, mean that she's not going to take any interest in taking on another baby. That's not to say, though, that it can't happen if you maybe get a female that loses her little one and then she comes across an orphan. It's possible. But for the most part, what we tend to find is that Ellies typically don't adopt or anything like that. They, like I say, have to look after quite a big baby as it is, and so the energy it requires to look after that one, she's going to be far more defensive of her own offspring than taking on another. I think, though, what you might find is, like I say, very unique sets of circumstances could very well lead to an adoption. They are sentient beings and they're very intelligent, and you never know. I mean, it's the same as with lions. There's been these reports of lions adopting little leopard cubs, and it's often around the time that they lose their own cub, and then they kind of come across it, and so that motherly instinct is still there. So that could be possible, and I never like to say never out here. I always think that with animals, anything is always possible. But yeah, generally no. That's the answer to that. It's a very long-winded answer for a general no. Isn't it cool just to listen to them feeding around us? They've kind of enveloped us now. We've got some behind us, some on the sides of us, in front. But they're not even paying us any attention. I love being in elephant herds. This little one having a scratch. There's not many cuter things than a baby elephant. I always enjoy watching them and their little antics. They seem to always be up to something, to little baby elephants. It's like there's so much to explore, and when you've the size that you are, I guess, you can just really do what you want, because mom typically is going to make sure that you're looked after, and so playing around and doing random things and exploring your world. Doesn't that sound amazing? I hope that you guys could hear that. There's the sound of them grumbling at each other and talking. So cool when you can hear that rumbling. It's like one of my favorite things. Such a cool sound. And they don't always do it, it's the sound of the rumbles can sometimes be quite difficult to get. A lot of the times they don't make the noise. Just trying to keep quiet a little bit because it's the one female that's making all the noise. Gemma, so unfortunately elephants really are quite restricted to the Kruger area. There's not really surrounding areas that they are able to survive in. Unfortunately, elephants and people don't mix. They are heavy on any subsistence farming, so they're not really welcome outside of the Kruger region. So there's not a huge amount of surrounding area outside of the national park that actually elephants are existing or even operating. But in terms of elephants in just general populations, in different populations, yes. So elephants here in this part of the Kruger National Park or the Sabi Sands will behave differently to those elephants that are potentially in Wangi in Zimbabwe or in the Thuli block or in Chobe or whatever it may be. They're adapting to their environment, so food items will be different. From a behavioral aspect, you might find that if they're in areas where it is on the boundaries with people, that they'll be far more inclined to hide during the day, so utilize big dense thickets, try be in the national parks during the day, and then at night start moving out into the community areas under the cover of darkness, where it's a lot easier for them to go unnoticed. So that can happen. Like I say, the biggest behavioral changes though will be food. They'll have little specialities wherever they are because of the vegetation that grows there. Not all elephant populations are exposed to the same nutrition and the same foods, and so that will change the way that they go about their day. Also, water will also change the way things happen. So to give you an example, if you go up into the salt pans in the central parts of Botswana, it's kind of south of the delta. In the delta, the elephants there are spending a lot of time and kind of in water and feeding off soft vegetation, and life is pretty easy. But down in the salt pans, those elephants there are traveling massive distances every day just in order to get to the salt pan, and there's a very good reason for it. There's a huge amount of mineral value in the water that they can get from there, so they will trek, and you'll find in the mornings you don't see many signs of elephants, but then in the afternoons you just see these dust clouds and these big massive bulls walking through from far afield to come through into the salt pan and then to come and take advantage of this nutrient-rich water. And they'll hang around through the night, and then they go back into the areas where it's more vegetated on the fringes of those salt pans, and they'll feed. Whereas elephants here don't have that problem. They've got a ridiculous amount of water to choose from, coupled with a huge amount of vegetation. So water and feeding is just part and parcel of the day. It's not like a cyclic event, and it's not a planned event like it would be in parts of central Botswana. So they're very, very intelligent animals, and they will adjust and adapt according to the area that they're in. And that, like I say, mostly sort of kind of revolving around food and water. But if there's human issues, then they'll adapt their behavior to try and get around that too.
Suspended above Kenya's Masai Mara is a breathtaking lodge where unrivaled service goes hand in hand with extraordinary wildlife sightings. Ngama Mara offers a quiet place where guests have the opportunity to reconnect with the world again. Sign up to be a WildEarth Explorer before the end of July, and you and a friend could win a 3-night stay at this award-winning lodge. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature. The importance of forests cannot be underestimated. Over 1 billion people live in and around forests, depending on them for fuel, food, medicine, and building materials. The Wildlife and Environment Society of South Africa, WESA, is the national implementer for a program called LEAF. The LEAF program makes use of indigenous forests grown on school properties to teach pupils about biodiversity. This directly instills a sense of ownership of the natural surroundings and reconnects children with our biomes and heritage. WESA needs your help to bring nature back to schools. Ask your school to join the program through the link on their website. Together with WESA, you can help take this incredible program to schools across the country.
Okay, there's another big male coming in from our left here. Another big male, look at this. This is the one. Now you're going to see sparks fly, guys. Guys, it doesn't get better than this, eh? Yes, unbelievable. Africa, I love you, eh?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Sadly, our visual went from 10 to 0 in the space of a split second. Maribes was sunbathing and just decided to pounce on Mom. Poor Mom. I can see movement, but I'm not sure. I need to figure out where they're going first. That's where the kill is, in there. It's about 20 meters from where it was yesterday, so she's dragged it. She's dragged it into the thicket, but it's still not hoisted, and that's... Oh, he's up the tree. Or she's up the tree. There is a leopard up the tree. Now, just an update on June. I really, unfortunately, it's little Gowrie, and Paul is so... Wow, it doesn't look very stable. Paul is so kind to let us visit the den. He gave us permission, and naturally, I can't follow. I can't just go into little Gowrie and sort of, sorry, this is too entertaining. What are you doing? It's playtime now. We've energized from the sun, and now we want to cause trouble. So yes, I will of course keep you updated on the hyenas naturally, but I wasn't able to follow June, I'm afraid. So I'll speak to Polly today and see if we can maybe spend some time at the den this afternoon and see where the cubs are. He's down on the ground again.
Feeding.
Is he eating now? It's not the best visuals, I realise that, but he's just bouncing around everywhere. I'm fast falling in love with Maribes. He's a very cool cat. Literally. Love of Earth. Love that name. Do you know, I touched on that last night, and technically no, but I do wonder if there's maybe some chemical cues that we obviously can't pick up on as humans. There could be some chemical communication going on that would inform them of their relation. But I don't see how. He just sees her as a big leopardess, I think, unless there's a scent that we can't possibly ever determine. However, I mentioned this last night, she is obviously aware that Maribes is an attachment of Tandy. She's encountered him many times now. She'll recognise his scent for sure, but he's always with Tandy, and she definitely knows her mother's scent without a doubt. Of course she does. So I think she's aware that Maribes comes as a package with Tandy, but in human forms, I don't think it's possible to say that she is aware that that is a relation of her. I don't think so. I think it will just be a case of she is aware that he comes with Tandy, he's part of Tandy. But it's interesting because it's discussing a realm that we really have no knowledge in. The chemical world. We are really not chemical beings. We can't understand that world, that type of communication, that type of sort of cognitive ability to be able to sniff something and analyze the chemicals. So that is a great question and one that I am pondering myself. So we're going to sit tight here just a little bit longer and see if we can potentially get any more views. But for now, over to Dan.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to andBeyond Ngala here, and I'm still kind of searching these areas in the east, trying to see if we can pick up on any signs of lions. And at the top of this tree this morning we found a tawny eagle. Now, before I carry on about that, someone who you may all know, Nick Beale, sent me a message last night commenting that I called a helmeted guinea fowl a crested guinea fowl, so I apologize for that. We don't get crested guinea fowl here whatsoever. It was certainly a helmeted guinea fowl, so thank you, Nicholas, and sorry to everyone if you noticed that as well. So here we have a tawny eagle, and at this time of the year, an eagle that shape, that size, that color is more often than not a tawny eagle. In the summertime it can be a little bit trickier to ID an eagle like this, and for the reasons that there are other brown eagles that are similar sized. Even like a Wahlberg's eagle can sometimes be a bit misleading towards an identification. Lesser spotted eagles, booted eagles, so they've all got similar kind of attributes, and if you don't know what you're really looking for, you can mistake them. But at this time of the year, this color, that shape, certainly a tawny eagle. And they are really good hunters, but they also are really good scavengers as well. You often see tawny eagles, and they're often the first bird of prey around a carcass. They're super alert, super aware. They are slightly smaller than vultures and things like that, so they will get bullied off by vultures, but are one of the bigger eagles as well, so they might be able to bully off maybe a battalier eagle or something around a carcass before it becomes too crowded. Kind of perched itself right at the top of this tree, absorbing some of the morning sunlight before it starts its day. Beautiful tree. Looks like a marula. Looks like a marula tree, and it's quite a strange area for a marula tree like that to be. It's the only marula tree in sight at the moment. Around us is just this great big knobthorn thicket. It's actually a really pretty area. You'll see in not so long the knobthorns are going to start to flower, and there's going to be this sweet aroma around in this part of the reserve. I remember a few years ago as well, this knobthorn area was beautiful, and the elephants just came through and smashed it. They kind of pushed over a whole lot of them. It was almost like they focused specifically on knobthorns in that year, and they pushed over all of these, but there's still a few of them that are surviving, and a few new ones that are starting to grow. So I wonder what this tawny eagle's going to do. I mean, I wonder how long it's going to take up there to warm itself up. Sometimes you'll even see the bigger birds like vultures sitting at the top of a tree like this in a cooler morning and opening up their wings, maybe getting rid of some of the dew that might have formed, or simply creating like a bigger surface area to be warmed up. You'll also see elephants doing it. I mean, Tristan's been with elephants this morning. You'll sometimes see on a very cold morning them opening up their ears. I mean, they've got those huge ears, and they'll open them up and face them towards the sun just to warm their bodies up. And you'll see the blood circulating through the ears will pump that warmer blood throughout the body, warming them up. Obviously, elephants are big animals, and they do take a long time to warm up. But it's a good start, at least before the sun comes out. We'll do a similar thing in the summertime when it's really hot as well, but the opposite. I'm sure you've seen them throwing water behind their ears, or at least flapping them. And that flapping like passes cooler air over their ears, cooling them down. I mean, it's not unheard of to people mis-IDing a tawny eagle with a juvenile batelier, but this one's slightly bigger and definitely is a tawny eagle.
Oh, the ellies are still all around us, and it's just so nice to sit peacefully with them as they move about. Oh, beautiful girl. It's very, very cool when they are this chilled to come across you. And she's a big, big cow, this. I think she's just interested in what we are and what we're doing. Amazing to watch the power that they have. Alright, well, we'll sit with them for a little while longer. I'm so enjoying just a nice, relaxed morning with our ellies. And we'll see what else this big cow will start to feed on. Isn't this incredible? This big old female that's come meandering right in front of us and is now just sitting next to us eating. Listen to the wood being crunched. Amazing to think that we're that close that we can hear her feeding on the branches. That's crazy. I hope that you guys can hear all of these sounds as well as we can, because it's mesmerizing when you sit here with them like this. Isn't that special? Yeah. Amazing. To have them that relaxed, and I know it's not the greatest visually from a standpoint that it's a bit against the light and they're kind of obscured, but that sound is just unbelievable when they're that close, and you can hear the chewing and you can hear the breaking of the branches and the breathing in and out. It's, like I say, it's as mesmerizing as it gets, and it's why I love spending time with Ellies. It's just constant kind of assault on your senses, so from your hearing to your sense of smell to your eyesight. It's not just, visually you're experiencing them, but you're hearing them and smelling them too, which creates a whole different atmosphere in person. Very cool. I'm surprised how relaxed this herd is, and they literally have walked right up to us multiple times. Well, it seems like the rest of the herd has actually pushed quite quickly now. They've left. This is the sort of trail end now. It's a big, large female, and then I think it must be her youngest one, and then her oldest is to her right with its own little baby. These four have been hanging around together. We haven't seen them separate at all. They've been kind of very close to one another. I'm going to go forward a little bit now that one has moved slightly, so we can also see. I don't know where the little baby went. Oh, there it is in the back. Duncan, well, it depends on how severe the injury is. If the injury is just a couple little wounds and things like that, then they typically are able to still use the trunk. But let's say hypothetically a snare wound where the trunk is severed. I've seen an elephant with a trunk that wouldn't even go past the tusks of this female elephant, so it was right up near the lip line of the tusks. And that elephant really did struggle. It was hard for it to get food, but what was amazing about it is when it needed to drink, it would just walk into the water as far as it needed to go, and then would drink through that. As once it got to the depth that the trunk could reach, the remainder of the trunk could reach, or the mouth. And then from a feeding point of view, you'd often find that it would just walk up to trees and it would mouth them and try and kind of pull what it needs to. And if it was really struggling, there was actually other elephants that would often break branches, and they would feed and then they would drop them, and then they would kind of pick them up again, and eventually they would actually give them to this elephant. So pretty interesting to watch. I think adult elephants would have adult bulls would have a lot harder time because they typically aren't associated in groups like the females are. But yeah, I think it's just a process of adaptation, much like anybody or any animal that loses a limb, whether it be human or wild. It takes a bit of time, and obviously, in humans there's prosthetics that can be used, but animals are resilient. They find a way to figure it out, and as long as they can get food and water in, then typically they're okay. But it is a big hindrance not having a trunk. I mean, you just see how much they use it, from dust bathing to drinking to feeding to protection to utilizing it in order to determine what's going on around them in their environment. Ellies are dependent on their trunk, so it's not a great thing to lose. Luckily, not many of them lose their trunk that high up. Most of them are much lower down, and if they do, if it's still lower down, if you take like Short Trunk, who's an elephant we see here, and she's perfectly fine. She still uses that trunk like any other elephant. She's probably not as she doesn't have as much of an ability to pick things up, although her trunk healed quite nicely. Her trunk healed with like a little lip, so she can actually squeeze things. But even if she couldn't, she can still wrap around and break branches and use her tusks to dig up roots and find a way to feed. And the trunk itself, no matter how short it is, will still be quite dexterous and still be able to help with breaking of grass and those kinds of things. It always one of the worst injuries. I hate seeing elephants that have had snare wounds on their trunks. It's a horrible thing to see. Snare wounds in general, across all animals, are not very pleasant. Unfortunately, the snaring is just on the increase globally. It's not just a South African problem, but it's a cheap and effective way of catching a multitude of animals, and so they're quite easily laid. And like I said, it's not expensive to lay a snare, and so that's why a lot of people do it. And they don't actually have to physically be there. They can just wait for animals to be caught and then go back and kind of take them from there. So it's cruel, but it's effective, much like most poaching techniques. Interesting how much grass they're still eating. Alright, well, we're going to sit here and just carry on with the herd. I actually think we might move on from the herd and see what else we can go and find. In the meantime, though, let's send you back across to Lauren and her leopard.
Tandy's now resting, and Maribes is feasting. So they've sort of swapped roles. It's a very difficult positioning of the kill. It's not very easy to view, but Tandy's obviously came out of that thicket and she's now having a bit of a snooze. Now, someone asked me the other day about Tandy going nomadic, and it was actually a really good question. I apologise that I can't remember the name. And it really planted a seed. That's what I love about all your really good questions, when they do plant seeds. She's not nomadic. She's absolutely not. She's still very much displaying territorial behaviour. However, it will be interesting to see how the future is going to lie for Tandy, because there's a lot of pressure on leopards here. Her daughter, as you all managed to witness last night, Kalamba, is absolutely putting pressure on. She seems to be pushing way further down south than ever before. I mean, she's really been seeing a lot now on Little Gowrie and Chitwa in comparison to previous years. She's seen on Torchwood, Buffalo, so Kalamba's territory just appears to be huge right now, or at least the areas that she's utilising. Now, Torchwood is a really large property. It's larger than Djuma, and it extends all the way east to the Kruger boundary. And Kanyeni uses that sort of eastern strip. Kuchava uses the sort of middle part, if you like, and then Tandy uses the far western strip. But now that Kuchava is believed to have cubs, she's been seen with suckle marks, she's been seen calling, which is fantastic news, but I don't believe the cubs have been seen. I just wonder what will happen to Tandy. Will she go nomadic? I'm just speculating. Will she switch it up like Nsele did? It was Davy, James and I on Simbambili one day that actually found Nsele leaving behind the west and making her way to Buffelshoek, and she's never looked back. She's also been seen with suckle marks. I'm just speculating here. Tandy's absolutely fine. She's got Maribes, but the leopard density is very high. And the more competitors you have as a leopard, that's obviously going to affect your territory. It's going to affect your movements. And I just wonder sort of which way Tandy will go. She's thriving, she's strong, but will she choose to live a more quieter life, or will she choose to keep being territorial? It's an interesting thought, and thank you for planting that seed. We saw signs in it with Chingana for quite a while before it was sort of deemed he's definitely nomadic. And it benefits him, so it's not a bad thing to go nomadic. There's just far too many young big boys for Chingana to compete with now. There's just a really sort of high leopard activity. And naturally, Maribes is of course male, so he will disperse at some point, but not yet. The females have obviously got to try and navigate around one another, fit into this constantly moving jigsaw puzzle. Okay, we're going to sit here a little bit longer. I am hoping that Maribes comes out and they both have a little bit of a cuddle. And of course, we will get to share that with all of you.
My name is Trishala and I am a naturalist and safari guide here in Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. I think that the information that we provide, and most importantly the questions that you ask, give both you and I a really good idea of what's going on. My friend Fernando here, he's a flat-necked chameleon and I love them. They're just these gems that you manage to find in the bush.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, two to go. How cool is this?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
My name is Lauren and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
Welcome back, everybody. So we kind of checked the eastern part of the reserve, checked along a boundary. We did find tracks of 3 lions, but they unfortunately crossed out back into the Kruger. And on our way back into the central parts of the reserve, found this lovely giraffe, just happily feeding. And it's actually such a lovely vantage point from where we are. We're quite elevated here. For the most part, Ngala's actually got a very low elevation, so you don't have many good viewpoints. And if you look very carefully in the background there, can you see the shape of those mountains? So it's a little bit hazy today. On a clear day, you can see them very clearly. And they really are quite pretty. It's the northern end of the Drakensberg mountain range, kind of the northern tip. And from here to there, as the crow flies, it's probably around just less than 60 kilometers. So they're quite far away, and on a clear day they are beautifully clear. You'll see in the summertime, after like a big rainstorm settles all the dust, and it really is quite pretty to have a look at those mountains. You can even see the rocky outcrops. Some birds even nest there, and then to find food will come all the way from there, about 60 kilometers or so, to here. An example of that would be something like a Cape vulture, be nesting up in the rocky cliffs there. And if they see an abundance of vultures flying over this side, they'll fly all the way from there to here. Particularly, I mean, it's interesting to see this giraffe all on its own I'm sure there might be a few other ones around here. It's not unusual to see a giraffe on its own. You do some from time to time see them on their own, or in small groups. And if you do find them in a small group, it's not to say they won't be on their own the next day. Okay, I'm going to keep going, see what else we can find this morning. I'll send you over to Lauren.
Our dynamic duo are being very adorable. This is a moment I was waiting for. Sometimes patience pays off and you've just got to wait out the bad visuals until moments like these happen. Here he comes to the car. He's really fascinated by cars right now, Mr. Maribes. Tandy's obviously not fascinated by cars. She absolutely knows they're not that exciting. They're just big old humps of metal that make a terrible noise and probably smell really terrible too. But Maribes, he's obviously thinking, my goodness. Ravi, did you get that name?
I think it was Bigger Dawn.
Bigger Dawn, you're asking, will his coat get darker? I think so, yes. He's very pale right now, I completely agree. His nose, my goodness, sorry. Comms broke up there. I actually think his coat will get darker, and I think his nose absolutely will get darker. Normally, when leopard cubs get older, and lion cubs as well, their nose tends to get a lot darker. Tandy, you've got something stuck to your chin, dear. It's just a leaf. But yes, I think his nose will get much darker. A lot of the male leopards' noses around are very, very dark, especially Mulwati, who's believed to be Maribes' father. And we say that because we don't really know. We can make very educated guesses, but we don't actually know who the father is. If Maribes does delight us by doing a poo, then we absolutely will collect it if we can. And if we can't collect it right now because there are 2 leopards around, we'll mark it. We'll mark the scat so we know it's definitely his, and we'll try and scoop it up later on. Poop scooping. Davi's volunteered, haven't you, Dav? Yes. But Mulwati also has a very dark nose. I think it will darken. And he's at that stage, Maribes, where he loves to just rub his nose and all sorts of delightful things. Buffalo dung, anything that just smells great. Roll around in the sand and the mud. Tandy girl, are we keeping you awake? It was amazing, this sighting yesterday. If you didn't manage to see it, go check it out. It was such a fantastic sunset drive, and Tandy knew. I'd obviously heard there's another leopardess in the area, but I didn't have any visual. But Tandy knew. She reacted immediately. Maribes was just playing and eating. We now know there was a carcass behind the mound, but Tandy was alert, listening, watching. She absolutely knew that there was another leopard or something was approaching. It's just remarkable how they can sense that, whether she heard it, whether she could smell. She knew. I don't know if she knew it was Kalamba right away, but she absolutely knew there was another leopard and she was getting ready. Her entire behaviour changed. It was really fascinating. Isn't she just beautiful? Tandy, I admire her so much, and she's produced some incredible offspring. Well, she got the leave off. I have to say, I am surprised there's no hyenas in the area. We're not terribly far from the den, or where we think is the den. And this carcass is on the ground. It's been here since last night. Vicky, you're asking exactly how old Tandy is. Tandy was born around November, December time in 2006. So that's pushing her at almost coming up for 15. So 14 and a half. You'll not believe who just flew overhead. Do you know who that was? I don't think Dobby can give you a visual. It's gone now. It was Matilda. Oh. But yes, November, December, that's what she's looking at. She's watching Matilda. 2006. So she's a much older leopardess. She's an old girl. And still thriving out here. And Tandy knows when to run. She knows when to flee. She knows when to fight. Tandy knows exactly what she's doing. Yes, you do. Here he comes. Look at that, she's loving it. I'm just going to stay quiet and let you guys enjoy this. Oh, there we go. Tandy's back. That was very precious. That didn't warm your heart for the day then. I don't know. Sammy, what an amazing moment between mother and son. I know. This is actually what we've been waiting on. That's why I went quiet. Just let you guys enjoy it. We see them, but we don't often see this tender sort of interaction between the two of them. Yes, just look at that. Maribes, your paws are very big. Oh, that was so lovely. That was very, very precious, everyone. I'm really glad we got to share that with you all. We've just enjoyed a really tender moment with the leopardess and her son. She's falling asleep now, though. He doesn't want to sleep. He is too busy being a young boy. But we are just going to sit here and watch Miss Tandy. Probably been awake all night, so it's now time to just enjoy the warmth of the sun. Isn't this just lovely? What a perfect morning with two of my favourite leopards.
Well, I'm still just bumbling around. I've come to the last place where I had tracks for that cheetah yesterday. No sign. I've picked up tracks for Mulawati, though. They're the same ones that come all the way from the southern boundary, going straight north. He's got a very specific road that he likes to take. It's a massive game path that runs straight through the block, and he always comes out there, and then he goes straight up Aubrey's Road from there. So his tracks are on the road. I can see his tracks, and they're fresh, but I mean, the reality is that the likelihood of us actually seeing him is probably quite slim. Like I say, still going. The last tracks I had for that cheetah were somewhere in this area where we are now. So you never know, maybe, just maybe, he might have found a kill of hers and hoisted it. I mean, that would be a miracle, wouldn't it? I see some scat here on the road that I just want to check. No, that's old. That's not what we're looking for. Still going low. wonder if he's going to cross north into Buffelshoek. Normally he doesn't cross north. He normally turns through this block here and heads towards Arathusa side and Simambili. Now he's still going. This track is quite hard to see now because the light has gotten very bright. So I was trying to see if I could find one where I could show you, but unless you're right on top of it, it's very difficult to make it out. If it was any other leopard, I would say we're not far. We could potentially find this cat now, anywhere here. But with him, the chances are not great. Unless he has a kill. If he has a kill, then obviously it's a very different story. Even then, though, we know that he's not a huge fan of the cars when he does have a kill. So yeah, the cheetah tracks were here, and then they look like they cut into this block. So let's see. So Rosie, not very long at all is the answer to that. Still going here. Lots of hyenas. I think these hyenas must have been trailing this cheetah because they've walked all over the top of those cheetah tracks. So Rosie, not very long. If you look at, I mean, Hukamori is a good case study for this. Is he was, he wasn't gone long, and Mulawati, Tortoise Pan, Tabangumi ate up that territory within, 2 months, not even. They had it. There's a nice track for him. His feet are big, this guy. I don't know if you can get that one, Beaks. There's a whole bunch there, so just whichever one you feel like you can get. He's got massive feet. These are probably the biggest leopard tracks we have at the moment currently. Tingana would be close, but not quite as bulky as what these are. Tingana's foot's a little narrower. These are very wide, very big. So you can see them very clearly there. And he comes all the way from Hofmann straight north. Busy cat, this. We're just walking, but those tracks are very fresh. So you can see how shiny and smooth they are, perfect little edges, and we have a bit of a breeze blowing today, so they're as nice a track as you could ever ask for. It's just a pity. If it was Tabangumi, I'd be like, we'd be in the money here. We'll find him pretty easily, but Mulawati, I don't know. It's going to be tricky. I'll follow it a little bit longer just to see, you never know, maybe we get it right when we find it. Hyena, leopard. This is where I had nice cheetah tracks yesterday. So Leah's perfect time. You can see the cheetah track that I circled yesterday in the middle of the road there. So they also like to use the roads, very, very similar. Unfortunately, you can see actually the difference between that track I just showed you, which was crisp and clean and nice and defined, compared to this track that's from yesterday that's been washed away a little bit by the wind. But yeah, that's a cheetah track that you see there. I'll try to see if I can find one that's not in such deep sand because it's quite obscured, that sand. But yeah, cheetah will walk on roads. If they know the area, then they walk on the roads quite a lot. If they don't know the area, then they typically are a little bit more kind of wary of where they're going and will often cut through blocks. All the tracks that I marked have been completely destroyed by hyenas, unfortunately. Just trying to see if I can... there we go, there's a nice one there. You can see, I don't know if Beaks, if you're going to be able to get this. Is it a bit close for you? Let me mark. Is it too close? Okay. I can smell this leopard. It smells like leopard pee here. Yeah, obviously said marked here. Unfortunately, the cheetah track is too close. I was going to show it to you, but it's also not a great one. Very different back paws as well. They've got, different back pads. Very deep, narrow, 3 lobes that you don't see on the leopard's ones. All right, Mulawati, which way did you go? Did you go straight? Did you go left? Did you go right? You went right. Okay. this way. Michael, my first cheetah sighting in the Sabi Sands was a male cheetah. I think, if I'm just trying to remember now, yeah, a male cheetah at Singita on the railway line there. There's a pan called Quarry Manyama Pan. Is that the pan just sitting? That's the first cheetah sighting I had in the sands. The first cheetah that I actually spent time with, like on a regular basis, was probably the boys that we used to see here. We've had them on the show before. They were 2 when we had them, but when we first started seeing them, they were 4. And we used to see them with pretty consistent regularity. They were around a lot. So yeah, those are probably the ones I got to know the most. But yeah, the first one, that would have been in 2000 and end of 2009. Was the first cheetah sighting that I had in the sands of that male. He used to have a hanging lip. It's quite easy to identify. Yeah, this male leopard just goes straight over here. Up. You can see his tracks here, male and female. Let me just see if I can move slightly. Sorry, Beaks. Just try and show you guys. If you look, you've got a male and female leopard track here. So you've got, on the right side is the male, on the left side is the female. The male track is bigger, broader, longer than the female track on the left. The female track is also older. So that female track is probably Kara from yesterday, and then Mulawati's track from today, going over or last night. So both went northwards. I don't think he's with her. This doesn't look like tracks for 2 leopards together. When they're together, what you find is their track zigzags on each other as the female tries to induce the male to mate with her, whereas this just looks like she walked and then he came behind afterwards. Nice to see though. I just want to check here to see how fresh these tracks really are, because there's unfortunately a number of cars been driving around this area. Okay, let's see where he goes from here. Oh, the vehicles have smashed these tracks. Well, that's the end of that. And I can see his footprint still, but it's not going to be easy now with the cars driving the way that they are.
Hi, I'm Dee from the south coast of England. Today I was told I have won the most amazing prize to go to Marataba. Oh, I can't believe it. I became hooked on WildEarth last year when I was trying to escape COVID, and animals are my thing. I just love them and I love what WildEarth does. So that's why I wanted to become an explorer. Just so looking forward to going out to Marataba. Want to do a walking safari. Thank you so much, WildEarth.
Sign up to be an explorer today, and it could be you jetting off on an all-expenses-paid-for safari experience. WildEarth Explorers. It's in your nature. As one of the industry's best and Fagasa Indoors training institutes, NJ Moorfield Guide College produces professional guides of exceptional caliber and gives students from around the world an incredible experience. NJ Moore offers courses to suit all types of interests. The full-length career course results in a Fagasa accredited qualification and the option of a 6-month internship at one of Moore Family Collection's luxury safari lodges. Shorter courses are a great introduction for those considering a career in field guiding or even a life-enriching experience in your gap year. With spaces still available in July, don't miss out on this fantastic opportunity to live your African dream.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
We're still here with Tandy. Maribes has gone on a little bit of a mission, sniffing around. But Tandy's still here, lying down. I don't think she left last night. We just couldn't see her. I think she was hiding in the thicket. And naturally, once you lose light, and we're only using infrared, it becomes really, really tricky. But I don't think she left. She didn't approach Tlalamba whilst we were there, but I really do think once Tlalamba left, she just came and they got the carcass back. The battle of the carcass.
Peter, come in.
There's actually not many viable hoisting trees around. Tlalamba struggled last night. But there's really not many sort of easy trees. They would have to track the carcass quite far in order to hoist it. And last night was a perfect example why they don't always hoist in any old tree. I mean, I've seen Tandy, up the most awkward apple leaf one time, very close to Philemon's Dip. But generally speaking, a big carcass like an impala ram, they need space for it, to balance it, to ensure it doesn't fall out. They need the branches for support of their own body weight and the carcass. It's not easy. Not any old tree will suffice. Gemma, I agree. Tandy's such a soulful-looking cat. She really is. I love spending time with Tandy, even when she's a little bit grumpy. I love the way she is with Maribes. I just love Tandy. I've had some incredible sightings with Tandy over the years. Tandy's the leopard that I've had the most kills with, successful hunts. Almost approaching 3 years, and it's always Tandy that I seem to get lucky with making a kill. I remember there was a period of about 3 weeks, James Henry and I spent every hour of our waking day looking for Tandy. Do you remember that, Dove? Singing songs, willing her into existence. Yeah, that was a long few weeks for you all. We found her eventually. I think James got her. She was spending most of her time on Torchwood. But it's tricky to know a leopard's exact territory because it's constantly in a state of flux. But I do think there's definitely room for Tandy on Torchwood as it stands. But really, that Miss Tlalamba has taken the world by storm. She's becoming quite famous in the south now for fighting with Shasha, fighting with their mom, fighting with Maribes. Okay, we are definitely not going to go anywhere, but we are going to send you guys over to Dan on the move.
Oh, welcome back everybody. So I've just kind of popped into the riverbed. Tracks of the lions crossed out. There were tracks of a female leopard, but I think they were from early last night. And they're heading into quite a tricky area. So I've just popped back down to the riverbed. One of my favorite places to drive. It's quite crazy to think that just a few months ago this was flowing, and it hasn't flowed like it did for many, many years. And now, for the past few months as well, we've just been driving in the riverbed. It's such a luxury having such a dry riverbed to drive into. Not right now, but for the most part, we've got this really wide field of view, allowing us to see quite far. Lions and leopards both love the riverbed. Just a really good area for birding. So I'm keeping a good lookout for birds as I drive along. There are still small little pools. I mean, like coming up on our right-hand side now, I'll show you shortly how water actually holds. And although the riverbed is dry, there are these quite permanent pools that kind of form. And you'll see in certain areas as well, even in the track where I'm driving, the water table is so high that there's just some moisture, and all you have to do is dig a little bit, and you'll find lots of elephants kind of coming down to this riverbed to dig for water. And it's pretty clean water as well. It gets filtered through all the sand, and it's kind of underground running permanently. So a beautiful little pan on our right hand side, really good for birds coming down to have a drink. Doesn't seem like there's too much there this morning. If you went and had a look around that pan as well, there will be lots and lots of tracks of general game, lots of smaller antelope coming down, having a drink. Also in a lot of the holes that the elephants dig. Yes, they've got clean, fresh water for themselves, but once they leave, they kind of provide a small little watering source for all sorts of other animals around. Very interesting to see. We're going to go past a rocky outcrop where we've been seeing an eclipse springer recently, which is quite unusual for Ngala. And it's a bit of a risky area to be, this klipspringer. It's pretty much right in the middle of that Ngala female's territory. And with her two new cubs, a klipspringer would be a perfect prey opportunity if she gets the right chance. Obviously, a klipspringer spends a lot of its time on quite steep rocky outcrops. But just on our right-hand side here, you can see kind of the steepness of the bank is where we, not yesterday, the day before, found those little cubs. So they are here, and they do move around here frequently. So if that klipspringer drops its guard for too long, I'm sure that leopardess is going to be onto it. And a klipspringer is a small little antelope that is a pretty good size for a female leopard to take down and hang up in a tree. Don, we don't see many springboks out here. That's correct. It's not really their habitat. They are far more arid, desert-dwelling antelope. So we don't have very many springbok around this area at all, in fact. So I know you guys used to, up into the Kalahari or some of the eastern parts of South Africa, you'll find springbok. And up into Namibia, more desert, arid kind of animals. But yeah, so I mean, no springbok around, got lots of impala. I guess an impala is not too far away from a springbok in many regards. I mean, they have similar behaviors. Lots of people see, that very typical springbok jumping behavior called pronking. Impala do something similar that we call stotting. And it's kind of like a defense mechanism to kind of show just how athletic and agile these animals are. Both springbok and impala, both incredibly agile and nimble animals. Just keeping a good lookout on these rocky outcrops here, just to see if I can't spot that klipspringer. There is a chance of that female leopard having come back down to here, but I think she's heading up into a more tricky area. I wonder if she didn't make a kill yesterday and we just couldn't get to it. If that is the case, she'll probably be there for a few days before she comes back down here. The area that she's heading there isn't that much water, so I'm sure she'll either head to that dam that we started at this morning or come back to this part of the riverbed where that little pool was. Is a good place for her to drink. Just where she had that impala carcass a few days as well. There's a small watering hole there. So I'm sure it won't be a few days before she's back here. The cubs are also getting much bigger, so if there is a carcass, depending on what it is, they're starting to eat more. As we saw the other day as well, they're not very strong yet. So when it comes to feeding on a carcass, yeah, they're pulling at the carcass, but they often pull it a little too hard and they're not strong enough to hold it yet. So as soon as gravity takes over, that carcass will fall down to the ground. And that could happen right now, in which case those leopards will probably move on and probably move back here sometime this afternoon. Or else if it's a big impala ram that's safely stored up in a tree, might last in 3-4 days. So here's this wide field of view I was talking about earlier. We've probably got 60 meters of riverbed at this specific area. Completely plain views straight out onto the banks, nice big trees. Odie and I were chatting this morning how the grass levels, although some of the areas are still quite long, it's nowhere near as thick as it was a few months ago. The density of the vegetation has reduced quite substantially, and that makes it a little bit easier to spot things. You'll see in the summertime when there's lots of rain and the grass is growing tall and thick, it's very tricky to spot anything, but it's alive with life. You know, all the impalas and wildebeest are having their calves and their lambs. Lots of birds are back. It's a great time of the year for birding when the rains come back.
Okay, this is getting interesting. We are with our 2 leopards, but apparently a pride of lions are on their way. Apparently they're really, really close. We're surrounded by vehicles now. Everyone's wondering what's going to happen. Maribes has wandered off. Maribes is a young sub-adult. And she started to become very, very alert. I don't know personally where the lions are, but according to reports, they're very, very close. They will smell the kill. If they are in the vicinity, they're definitely going to smell it. This could get potentially very interesting. Now, I'm also just going to sit here and listen, because if the lions are close, we may hear some audio. Okay, we're gonna sit tight here and figure out exactly what's happening. everyone. Apparently the lions are very close by. I don't quite know what's happening. I don't see the lions, obviously. But apparently they're very, very close by. We've just been descended on by vehicles, so we may need to move. It's the Talamati Pride. But it's been reported that they're really close and they're heading this way. Maribes has disappeared. He's wandered off into the thicket. We only have a visual of Tandy. And if the lions are as close as people seem to think they are, then they will smell the kill, absolutely. She doesn't seem too alert. We saw her last night when she was very alert because of Kalamba. Tandy girl, what do you hear? Now, they're not coming here for the kill. They're just apparently walking in this direction, and naturally they will get a whiff. I mean, I can smell this kill. The Matis must have moved all the way from Buffelshoek, and they're travelling south. Listen, I don't know. I really don't know. She could easily get up a tree, and she could easily flee. I think that's a decision she would have to make in the time. I'm really, really not sure what she would do. Since the kill's on the ground, it may be her best option to flee. She could run straight south into the Mulwanini. I'm just going to need to jump on the radio for a moment or two and find out exactly what's happening and how close these lions really are. Tandy doesn't really seem too phased. But we're going to sit tight here, and if anything happens, you'll be right back with us. But for now, over to Tristan.
Lassie, where you now?
Well, see what happens there. It sounds like the lions are just meandering along. I don't know if they know that they're there, but it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens. Generally, the lions just get very kind of attached to the meat, and then they sort of make a big story of the carcass, and they don't worry too much about the rest. Anyway, we had Gallagher Pan. We had a little grouping, a business of dwarf mongoose that came to drink, and then now it's just lots and lots of birds that are around, particularly these little yellow-fronted canaries. There's lots of them. You see the mongoose going up the mount for sun. On the far side of the dam, you've got them beaks. Nice. So they're having a good time up there, just sunning themselves, taking it easy. They came down for a little bit of water, and then now it'll be about just having a good rest and soaking up some warmth. It's been cold. It's one of those mornings that it's got colder rather than warmer as the morning's gone on. There's a very, 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 very cold wind that's blowing. And so I think if you're a little dwarf mongoose, you're probably feeling the cold as much as what we are. So it makes sense just to get yourself into a nice little sunny spot and take it easy for the rest of the day. I think that's in order for all of us. We'll go and find some sunshine and take it easy for the middle part of the day. I was actually thinking just now how cold it must be where Lauren is, because they're in the drainage line there, which is not very pleasant. The Mulawanini does get very cold in winter. It's one of those drainage lines like the Mulawati as well. It's just low lying, so typically a lot cooler in there than it will be anywhere else. And so that makes for pretty tough viewing, but it's not like Lauren hasn't been spoilt this morning. She seems like she's had a crazy good sighting, so can't complain too much, I don't think. It's been a tale of two different drives. We've had the calmness of the Ellies and nothing else, and Lauren's had the antics of Maribes, which is a big contrast to the Ellies this morning. Our Ellies were by no means playful. They were just in max chill mode. So it's amazing how two vehicles in the same property or same area can have two such contrasting drives. That's why I always wonder why people compare their drive to others. You can't all be in the same road at the same place, which means that you're never all going to see the same thing. I see it often at lodges where guests get upset or boast to others about what they saw, and that they got luckier than the other groups. But luck is something that rolls around. It might not be your drive, that drive, but the next one maybe you get lucky. So I just think it's silly to worry about that stuff. Everybody's interests are different, and everybody's luck is going to be slightly different. And wildlife, as much as we like to think that we're experts on it, there is a monstrous amount of luck that's involved by being in the right place at the right time. You see it a lot with the animals that we see here. If you 5 minutes later, you're not going to see any sign that they were even there. You might pick up a track, but tracking them is then a lot of work, and you typically don't always come right. So it's a game of inches sometimes, is wildlife. You just got to take the good with the bad. Some days you're going to have quieter drives, and other days you're going to have good ones, but it doesn't mean that they can't be successful. Quiet drives can lead to story time. It can lead to all kinds of things. So take in what you can. All right, Yalagopan, it's been real. You're not really enthralling. So we're going to carry on around towards Gari Dam and then really head up towards Quarantine. It's that time of the day, I suppose, where we start heading back home. It's weird, I spent so little time at Galagopan, and it used to be one of the pans we spent the majority of our time at. Tlalamba, Hosana, Tingana, Tandy used to all be around here. Nowadays, I can't actually remember the last time I had a sighting at Galagopan of anything. It's been, it's a giraffe, hello. It's just to prove me wrong. There are animals here at Galagopan. Old male giraffe. Nice and dark, this fella. Also looking a little skinny. You see his hip bones are protruding. Shame boy. Just feels like this morning that bar kind of one or two animals, everybody seems to be taking it slow today. It feels like a slow Monday morning. It doesn't feel like we've got a huge amount of animals that are interested in being too active this morning. I think if I was a giraffe, I'd also be ruminating now. Just stand there, absorb some sunshine, ruminate, have a little drink, and then go about the day once it gets warmer. Start kind of heading into these thickets. The giraffe like these areas purely based off the Tamboti thickets that we have around. So it's a type of tree that's in this area, and giraffes really enjoy Tambotis. It helps with just keeping their stomach in check and making sure that they get rid of any stuff that they're not digesting. So I often find that they, at this time of the day, start making their way towards it. Nice and shady there as well. If it's going to be a warm day, can get in under the shade as well as feed off that tree. So Tamboti thicket's always a good place if you're looking for giraffe. Often find them in those Tambotis. That's where he's heading now. If he crosses the road, he goes straight into the Tambotis that are in front of camp. Massive animal though. Oof. And you see it from this angle because we're so much lower than this guy. see if we can get him here crossing the road. Will be quite cool. Alright, so we'll just reposition and see whether or not he will cross the road for us.
Another wonderful guest with us, Sergio Real. Sergio is a holder of the Ticket to Dream.
I bought a Ticket to Dream because I love WildEarth. All of the guides have been awesome. We've been watching for years, and it's a favorite part of my day to get to watch the drives. I look forward to seeing lots of leopards.
If you want to go on safari with a WildEarth guide, whilst honing your bush knowledge and of course featuring in one of our shows, then head over to our website.
My favorite part of the drive today was definitely an elephant that paid us a visit and came right to our car.
Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer and you could be making your first ever on-screen appearance.
It's amazing being on a live drive in Djuma. It's just fantastic. The scenery is beautiful and the animals are even better.
The Wildlife and Environment Society of South Africa, WESA, encourages people to care for the earth. Through innovative projects, they aim to reverse the serious issues that we face in the world today. One of these projects is Green Coast, a proudly South African award for sensitive and well-managed coastal sites. This sustainability project protects our national coastlines while providing unemployed youth with a love for their environment and a hope for the future. WESA is a membership and volunteer-supported organisation. Every supporter is helping to change the only earth we have. Visit our website to see how you can help care for our earth.
Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, Impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth Daily.
The situation's not changed here. Tandy's still chillaxing. We have repositioned those so that other vehicles can see. And apparently it is the Talamati Pride, or at least it's been called in that way, and they are very nearby in the Mulwani. Now Tandy's at the very, very bottom of the Mulwanini at Gowrie Main, and it almost sort of very, very close to Chitwa, but she is on the Torchwood side. I don't know where these lions are. It doesn't mean they're going to come here, they're just traveling south. But of course they have a great sense of smell. And if they do pick up wind, it all depends on so many factors, but if they do pick up on the scent of this kill, and then of course they'll be drawn towards the scent. People have lost visuals of the Talamatis for now. I think Tandy would flee. Going back to that question, I've been thinking about it. I think she would flee just from her position and the position of the kill. I think she would run. I think she would run straight south. But not so long ago, I had an incredible sighting of Darkmane, who had chased Tandy up a tree. So she obviously chose to go up a tree in that scenario. And maybe that's her instinct kicking in. They are arboreal animals. They spend a large portion of their life in trees. So maybe she would run up a tree. She's just looking at our surroundings. There's not a great deal of choice. Okay, we're still going to sit tight here and try and figure out what's happening, but I believe Tristan has a giraffe.
Well, I think we're going to unfortunately run out of time to see what happens there. Maybe the Telematis won't find it. You never know. Sometimes they pass by fairly close and it's a bit all anticlimactic. But time will tell, I suppose. We'll see what kind of ends up happening. The giraffe is just feeding and having a very good time of feeding. You'll see that nice long tongue kind of just picking little leaflets off. It's interesting because there's two trees growing in amongst one another here. There's a bush willow. And then a little saffron that's growing there as well, so being very delicate though. I love how delicate giraffe can be. You'd think for such a big creature it would be super kind of careless about its feeding and it would just kind of gobble things down, but they are particular and delicate when it comes to feeding. Those little lips just kind of wrap around and just pull little leaflets everywhere that they can. Make sure that they're grabbing exactly what they need in order to maximize the amount of nutrients they're getting. They're not just feeding for the sake of feeding. They're very, very particular about the plants that they go after, and it's all nutritious plants that hold a lot of energy for them. And they don't want to waste space in that small stomach with branches and things like that, so they just pick the leaflets off as easily as they can, using their lips and their tongue. Susan, no, not really. We just go through phases. So sometimes we don't see giraffes for like 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks sometimes, and then all of a sudden giraffes will be everywhere. Normally this time of the year we start to see more giraffe. And the knobthorns are flowering now. So as the knobthorns start to flower, that brings about the giraffe populations to come in and feed off of those knobthorns. So it really is kind of random with them. Like I say, some days we see a lot, some days we don't. Yeah, it's not that they're rare though. It wouldn't be something I'd classify as rare. Although it can be the bane of our existence here in the Sabi Sands, all the lodges I've worked at. Giraffe can sometimes be a tough one to find. I remember when I was at Lion Sands, I didn't see, it was not so much giraffe, but I didn't see zebra for like 6 months. And every guest that comes out here always wants to see all the kind of bigger animals and giraffe and zebra. Always. So when you can't find zebra for 6 months, it becomes quite hopeless. And then all of a sudden after that, there was just zebras everywhere after that 6 months. So it's just random. Sometimes it happens that you just don't have animals in the area for a while, and then they come through and it kind of shifts and changes. But yeah, not a rarity. I wouldn't call them rare by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's actually waiting for us to move. Once he's finished, he wants to come down the road towards the water, but it's too tight for him to go down where he is now. There's a very steep bank there, so we can actually just probably leave him. Well, it's that time of the day anyway that we're going to leave him, so that he can actually make his way to the water. I didn't think he was going to come this way. I thought he might have crossed behind, but it seems as though he wants to come down the road. So we shall let him do that and leave him to himself. Like I say, that time where we're heading back to camp, all of us. I hope that you've had a good morning with us. We enjoyed Tandy and Maribes' antics, as well as Dan and Ngala and the elephant. It seems like there's a little bit of something for everyone this morning. Anyway, we'll see you all this afternoon on our sunset safari. Lots to look forward to with the lions and leopards around. And so from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure. And we'll see you on our sunset safari.